Well, good morning. It is my privilege to be able to welcome you to the Capitol today. We always seem to gather on the first 2 or 3 days of the session. There's a lot of excitement and activity. Everybody's fresh. They've been rejuvenated over the holidays, and there's a lot of energy. Come back in 3 months, and you'll see a lot of ragged, tired people. But we're glad to have you here today. Appreciate y'all making the effort to come. We are working hard this week trying to get organized, especially in the House of Representatives. I don't know how many of you have followed what's going on there, but we've had a lot of departures for a lot of good reasons. A lot of my members have been selected to go serve in other capacities. A lot of them ran for judges in November and got elected. Some of them have retired and moved on to other things. So I've got about, I don't know, we had about 5 new people yesterday that I had to assign committees to and reorganize some of my committees. And I think that's a good thing. I said yesterday to a group that I spoke to that I'm honored that when the governor chooses to pick somebody to fill a new role, like Mark Formby at the Workers' Comp Commission, or Herb Frierson, Department of Revenue, or Andy Gibson at Department of Agriculture, he seems to come to the House to get the people that he's picking. And I think that speaks to the quality of the leaders we have in the House, those that are serving. And I'm proud of that. As I said, 3 of my members got elected as judges in the November election. So we have a group of people, I think, that serve well in a variety of capacities, and I'm honored that they are able to move on and do greater things. But that causes me to have to get reorganized and redo committees, and we're in the process of doing that. We're going to refer bills soon. That's a process that takes a lot of time. We probably have in the House about 1,500 bills that are filed. These are 1,500 ideas that legislators have that they think are going to improve the state of Mississippi. Statistically, about 200 of those will make it out of committee, and a little over 100 of those will probably end up getting signed into law by the governor. So that just gives you a little idea of the amount of work that we have to do this time of year. We start out with 1,500 bills. We have to consider those, debate those, whittle those down to a workable number that we can actually pass on the House floor. And that process will take place basically over the next month. We'll get to the point where we've done that. It's a very busy time, a lot going on, and glad to see each of you here today. Well, what I want to do is kind of address last year and MEC's role in last year and your stated goals. How many of you in this room know what MEC's agenda was last year? Okay. There were 3 things, 2 of which we took on in the House of Representatives. One was to rewrite the education funding formula. That was a stated goal of MEC. I'm proud to say that those of us in the House undertook that and actually accomplished it. We sent it to the Senate, where it unfortunately died. But as far as meeting the goal of MEC, I think those of us in the House took what you viewed to be a concern of yours, and we did it. One of the second things you did, or stated as your goal, was a new road and bridge funding formula. And we in the House took charge of that issue as well, and we led out on that issue. The bill that was ultimately passed in special session in August was a House bill. It is the same bill we passed in the legislative session in 2017, last January, a year ago. We started from that point, and we brought forward a bill that we believe is going to provide a continuous stream of revenue for cities and counties forevermore. And that is a good thing. I will tell you, the Municipal League and the Board of Supervisors are all thrilled with the legislation that we passed. It's going to provide about $120 to $130 million a year from now on that will be divided between cities and counties, and it will help them to solve their infrastructure problems. We defined infrastructure as water, sewer, roads, and bridges. That is a stated goal, was a stated goal for this organization. MEC declared that to be one of their goals, and we in the House of Representatives rose up and met that goal as well. There were 4 people who were instrumental in making this happen. I want you to know who they are. I want you to see their faces and associate their names with the bill that was passed. Any piece of legislation always requires a champion. Somebody's got to get behind it. Somebody's got to research the issue, develop a plan, understand the plan, go to the committees, and champion the bill. Does anybody in here know how the legislative process works? If you do, raise your hand. All right, come up here. Come up here and explain it to me. I may have told this story in here before, and if I have, I apologize, but it is one of my favorites. We had a group of third graders that came to the Capitol once upon a time. Have you heard this story before? Some of you have. A group of third graders came to the Capitol. Teacher wanted me to speak to them. I said, what do you want me to talk about? She said, I want you to tell them how a bill becomes a law. I said, oh gosh, are you sure? And she said, oh yeah, they need to know this. I said, they're in the third grade. She said, but this is the gifted class. They understand, they're smart, they can get it. I said, okay. So I go to the drawing board and I start drawing out how a bill becomes a law. It starts when a legislator comes in with an idea. They go to see the attorney. The attorney drafts up the bill and sends it to the speaker. The speaker then assigns it to the chairman of the committee. The chairman of the committee assigns it to the subcommittee. The subcommittee considers the bill. If they like the bill, they pass it out to the full committee. If the full committee likes it, they pass it out to the full House floor. If the House passes it, then it's then sent to the lieutenant governor's office, where he assigns it to the chairman of the committee. Chairman of the committee sends it to the subcommittee. If the subcommittee likes it, they pass it out to the full committee. If the full committee likes it, they pass it out to the full Senate. If the Senate passes it, it goes to the governor for signing. But if the Senate changes the bill, it comes back over to the House for concurrence or non-concurrence. If we concur, then it goes to the governor for signing. But if we don't like the changes, we send it to conference. In conference, the lieutenant governor puts up 3 senators, I put up 3 House members. Those 6 individuals sit in a room and hammer out the differences. If they come to an agreement, they produce what's called a conference report. Conference reports then return to both sides for consideration. If they like the bill and both sides pass it, then it goes to the governor for signing. But at any time, if the governor vetoes the bill, it's returned to the House of origination for consideration. If they override the governor by 2/3 vote, then it goes to the other side for consideration. If they override by 2/3 vote, then the bill becomes law. Any questions? Third grader sitting on the front row raises his hand. I said, yes, sir. He said, you like pizza? I said, yes, I do, and you're qualified to be a legislator. So my point there is, you have to babysit your bill. When you file a bill, you have to hold its hand and walk it to the committee and then to the subcommittee. And you have to talk to that chairman, and you have to talk to those committee members and convince them it's a good idea. Then you go to the full committee and you do the same thing there. Then you go to the House floor and you do the same thing there. And then if it passes and goes to the Senate, you as a House of Representatives member has to go over to the Senate and do the same thing there and talk to that subcommittee chairman and the full Senate. And you work the bill, and you have to work it and hold its hand and walk it through the process. And if something of this magnitude, it took that kind of effort to do the road and bridge plan. And there were 4 individuals that kind of carried the football on this. And you didn't know who they are. And I've got them here with me today. I don't want to introduce them to you, so you'll put names with faces. My buddy Mark Baker right here from Brandon, Mississippi. He's chairman of Judd A. Mark and I got elected together in '04, and Mark's running for Attorney General, in case you haven't heard. But he was one of the lead forces behind this bill. I got Chairman of Transportation, Mr. Charles Busby, right over here from Pascagoula, Mississippi. And then we got Mr. Jason White from West Mississippi, who is the Chairman of the Rules Committee. And Mr. Trey Lamar from Senatobia, Mississippi, who is the Vice Chairman of Ways and Means. You need to know these 4 guys are the ones that actually worked that bill. They birthed the idea, they developed the policy, they worked the floor, they did all those things that I just mentioned, and this would not have happened without the efforts of these 4 individuals. So I want to congratulate them and let you see who they are. Looking forward to this year, I know one of the items on your agenda, how many of y'all know what your agenda items are for the year? Okay. Workforce development, premises liability. Those are the two things you stated as your agenda items for the year. Workforce is something we've been diligent about in the House of Representatives for quite some time. We, again, want to make that an emphasis. We have put, I think last year, $50 million into workforce development. I've got my chairman sitting over here, Mr. Donnie Bell. Stand up, Donnie, so they can see how pretty you are. Donnie is my former desk mate. I sat by him for many, many years, and that was the impetus for me to run for speaker so that I could get away from him. But Donnie is the chairman of my committee. He does a great job, and we too want to make that an ongoing. That's not just a one-year item, ladies and gentlemen. That's an every-year item for us. Every year we're looking at how do we improve it, how do we make it better. I'm hosting a summit later this year after the legislative session on workforce development. I would get you that information, would love for you to come and participate. I had a summit in October on human trafficking. I want to mention that. That's an item that's near and dear to my heart. We're going to run with a bill this year to try to put an end to human trafficking in Mississippi. I did not realize how broad that it is. It is a scourge on our society. It's in every town, and we cannot ignore that it exists. And there are young people in this state that are being exploited and abused, and we've got to stop it. So we're going to pass a bill to deal with human trafficking. I had a summit in October dealing with that. My next summit is going to be on workforce development. I also noticed that premises liability is one of the items that you've put forward, and we too are going to address that as well. I'm an attorney by training. I have had a lot of premises liability cases in my profession. I have defended a number of cases. My favorite illustration of the need for premises liability is an apartment complex that I defended in a lawsuit filed by a young man who was committing an armed robbery. And in the process of committing the armed robbery, he got shot. And he sued my client for not protecting him while he was committing the armed robbery. That highlights the need for premises liability, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to address that issue. It's something that we've got on the radar screen, and I wanted you to know that. I know I've taken a lot longer than my allotted time, but I appreciate you listening to me. It's always great to see you. I look forward to seeing you at lunch later today. Thank you.